I had just returned from seeing my father, who had been in the hospital for a while now after a massive fall to the ground during the state's martial arts competition training, to meet my mother in the house with the Luna of our pack, Luna Cassandra as she's addressed. They were seated in the parlor, discussing something seriously with each other, only to get distracted by my entry. "Oh, there she is," my mother exclaimed upon seeing me, getting up immediately as she approached me. "I'm glad you're here now, and," she said to me, "Luna Cassandra and I have been waiting for you since," she continued, grabbing my hand. "Is there a problem, Mom?" I asked, turning to look at Luna, who was all smiles, and for the first time since I got into the house, I got the chance to greet her. "Welcome, my Mira," she responded, still smiling at me. Her smile and the name she just called me felt all awkward, but there was something more awkward than that: her presence in our house. I glanced at her once more, then at my mother. I had a "can someone explain what the hell is going on here" kind of look on me. It was so evident that my mom began explaining everything to me at once. She was all sweaty and nervous as she sat me down to explain the whole thing, and I couldn't help but wonder what the hell the issue was. "The thing is this, and Luna Cassandra here has a special request from us, which, when granted, she will in return suit the medical bills for your father's surgery," she related. "Oh my gosh!" You needed to see the way I shouted with joy, my hands covering my mouth at the mention of the reward being suiting my father's surgery bills, something I've been worried sick about how to raise the money for. I wanted more than anything for my father to be whole and hearty again. "So what is it, Mommy? I'll do whatever it is, whatever it takes, to make sure Dad does the surgery and comes back to us again. So tell me already, what does Luna demand from me so we can get started on it already?" I demanded in a chirped voice. "It's not as simple as you think, my dear Hannah, and you should consider it, so you don't make a hasty decision, because the last thing I want is to pressure or force anything on you," Luna Cassandra added. "My Luna, that's quite a ridiculous request from you. Do you know how grave what you're demanding is? I will have to sleep with your husband, the Alpha, to do so, and that's cheating, a crime punishable by the law and the Moon Goddess," I asked, my hands clutching my chest. Everything felt so uncanny for me to believe. "No, Hannah, you won't have to sleep with the Alpha. I guess you've forgotten that your mother is a fertility specialist, a reproductive endocrinologist whose specialization is in infertility and assisted reproductive technologies like in vitro fertilization, IVF. My mom asked, and I couldn't just believe my ears. "So, Mom, are you saying that the Alpha's sperm will be artificially placed in me so I can carry his child?" I asked, not believing my ears. "Exactly, my dear. I'm glad you're getting it now. Luna Cassandra is medically unfit to carry a child even if she does the procedure, which is why we are having you do it in her stead. Secretly at that. No one would ever know or hear of it. It's just between the three of us," Mom coaxed. "That doesn't feel right, Mom, and I'm afraid I can't do that. I just can't see myself doing that. Though I want to save Daddy with everything I've got. But definitely not this way. This is totally insane. How can I secretly carry the Alpha's child? What will become of me after that? And what will happen to me if word gets out concerning it? We are all going to be doomed, especially you, my Luna. And does the Alpha know about this? Is he supporting it?" "Well, I doubt he is. He would never support such a thing. No reasonable Alpha would, because they all know how important their offspring coming from their mates is. So I won't take part in this. I'm never going to do this," I answered, rushing upstairs to my room in tears. Tears soaked me as I lay there on my bed to sleep. I needed to save my father. I wanted to, but not in this way. But how am I the only one seeing the wrong in it? Is my mother okay with that kind of arrangement? So much to my dismay, my mom started giving me the cold attitude with many displays from that day onwards because of my refusal to grant Luna's request for taking responsibility for my father's surgery. It even got to where she outright stopped talking to me, keeping malice. Despite all that, I still stood my ground, refusing to succumb to evil until I got a distress call from the doctor overseeing my father at the hospital today and rushed over there to answer his call. "I'm afraid your father won't last long in this condition if they don't perform the surgery on him soon. His spinal cord may never come back to order, and if it comes to worse, with care not taken, and with the way you guys are going about this, he might even end up losing his life from this one accident." So I hope you and your mom hurry with the money for the surgery, as he has barely 2 weeks to hang on like this," he said, my heart broken beyond repair as I broke down right there at the hospital before the doctor. "Is there no other way around this, doctor, but the surgery?" I asked, tears rolling out from my eyes as I grabbed him by the leg in desperate pleas. "I'm afraid there's no other way around this, my dear, but to watch his condition deteriorate," the doctor bluntly answered. "I've told you before now that the current medication he is taking will only last him for a while without the surgery. So, I hope you and your mother do what is required before it is too late." "I have already done my best as his doctor," he added, and without another gaze, he walked away from me. To suit my father's hospital bill and for constant provision of the current medication he is taking, I had to juggle several part-time jobs, which, their salaries put together, aren't up to half of the bill for the surgery. Life has been so difficult for me and my mother, who is just a fertility specialist at a local lab in the pack. Her salary is barely enough to fend for us. I had to drop out of the university because of it, so I couldn't help but understand why she's so mad at me for refusing the one-chance opportunity deal from Luna. As I watched my father, who is currently asleep on the hospital bed in his ward, tears once again began trickling out of my eyes. Drying them off with the back of my hands, I decided to go for the deal with Luna. It will be bad and inconsiderate of me to let my father keep suffering like this when I can save him, us all, from this hellhole. Picking up my phone, I contacted my mother immediately, praying that she would pick up the call, as she was still angry with me, but thankfully enough for me she did. "Yes, what is it?" she asked, her tone harsh to me. "Luna's contact. Please, can you forward it to me right now?" I demanded with a shaky voice. "Sure I can. I'll do that right away," she responded. Her tone softened, and in the next minute, I got the text from her and contacted Luna with it. "Welcome, my Maria. It is good to have you here. However, I hope no one followed you here or is even aware of our meeting in this secluded place, huh?" Luna Cassandra asked after I had taken my seat before her, and there she goes again, addressing me as her Maria. "I'm here alone. Even my mother doesn't know of our meeting here," I answered. "It's okay if your mom knows it. She's the only one allowed to know, as she has a big part to play in this. So, my dear, before we proceed, I will let you know of the terms and conditions that apply with the deal, and I want you to give me your rapt attention," she said, starting off immediately. "Condition 1. As soon as you're impregnated artificially with the alpha sperm, you're to remain hidden in the apartment I'll rent for you, without contacting or having anything to do with anyone until you give birth to the child. I'll meet all your needs myself, and on the day you finally deliver the child, I'll be with you in the hospital to take the child while you leave there immediately, unseen or noticed by anyone. Condition 2. You will leave the pack, the werewolf packs, completely to the human world, where you will start life afresh and never return to this pack. Your life will be at risk the moment you do. I'll deposit half of the money for your father's surgery at the start of the deal and complete it as soon as you give birth and leave. Not only that, I'll also be compensating you with a whopping sum of $20 million with which to start up a new life in the human world and for the stress you've been through. Please tell me if you're okay with the conditions, and then we can sign a contract." She finished, and I couldn't help but imagine the shit I was getting myself into. The conditions were not okay with me, of course, especially the part about remaining hidden in a house and that of having to leave the pack, our world, to that of the humans. It means I won't get to see or live with my parents again, my father, whom I tried so hard to save. Then there are my friends and colleagues. Will I have to leave them all behind? The sacrifice was just too much for me, but I haven't come this far to turn back because of this, so I had no choice but to accept it and deal with it, and that was how I signed a deal with the devil. My mind was all over the place as I made my way home after my meeting with her. The weight of my decision was pressing so hard on my shoulders that I couldn't bear stopping at a bar on the way to relieve and drown my sorrows with alcohol. It was so serious that I even lost count of the bottles of vodka I had taken. Despite that, I went for another bottle to the point I became so wasted, and I was starting to feel sleepy when someone from nowhere snatched the next bottle of vodka I was rushing out for from me. "And who the heck are you to take away my drink from me? You must have a death wish." I slurred curses at the person through gritted teeth as I turned to see who the darned person was, but my vision was blurry, my eyes gradually closing into sleep. To stay awake, I had to injure myself with the bottle opener on the table, and to my surprise, the drink snatcher was none other than a strange man, a man in his early 30s. Not only that, but I've never seen a man as handsome as the one that stood before me right now. It was as though I had come face to face with a demigod. As if his presence before me alone wasn't overwhelming enough, there was this dangerous yet captivating aura surrounding him, drawing me an even as cold sweat ran down my spine. His gaze was sharp on me, unrelenting, piercing so deep into me it felt like he could strip away every secret I carried. My throat tightened to my chest as I swallowed hard, feeling unsettled. But it wasn't only his eyes. His lips too were pressed into a thin, rigid line, anger showing in his face. It was anger directed at me, yet beneath it, there was this longing, a longing with an arch. "My mate a drunkard?" he said, his words trembling between anger and disappointment, just before sleep took hold of me. I've never been one to run away from my duties, but there has been one thing I've been running away from all my life, and you know what that is? Becoming the alpha of the pack as the first and only heir of my father. I had zero interest in pack politics, and the drama that accompanied it. It made me run away from the pack, the werewolf world entirely, as early as 18 years of age, just after my mother's death. And since then, I've been living among humans in their world, where I established a life for myself. However, a few days ago, I got a letter from my father asking me to come back to the pack, and according to him in the letter, it was time for me to take over the pack from him. Something I thought I had completely escaped from, especially as he had given up on me when I ran away. But since his second wife hasn't been able to give him another child to succeed him, he now insists I must return and claim the position. Of course I didn't agree, and wouldn't have, but then he threatened to destroy the life I have built for myself in the human world with a curse and expose my true identity to the humans. I couldn't let that happen, and thus had no other choice but to return to the pack. "You look like death, my prince. So I was thinking, would you love to drop by a bar to grab some drinks, or should I drive you straight to the palace?" My wingman, Beta Kane, who has been by my side since childhood, asked upon our arrival at the pack, the Red Moon pack. "To the bar, man. I'm battling with fury right now, and it's making my chest tighten." "Let me let off some steam there," I answered, as he nodded in understanding, and made a U-turn to the nearest bar. However, just as we got down from the car and headed towards the bar, I felt a sudden push from inside me. It was my wolf that's been silent since my 22 years of living among humans have suddenly awakened by what I was yet to know. It shook and stirred within me, propelling me forward. I was struggling to understand what the heck was wrong with me, until a sharp and intoxicating scent drifted through my nostrils. "Mate! Mate! Our mate!" My wolf howled. "Our mate! She's right here in the building." It howled yet again, and just like one possessed by an unknown force, I stormed inside, searching for her, my mate. After searching for a few minutes for her, I finally found her at a corner in the bar, empty bottles of vodka littered all over the table she was staying at, and watched as she reached out for the last bottle that was full as I immediately rushed over and seized it from her, scanning her from head to toe. "And who the heck are you?" she shouted, hurting herself with an opener to stay awake to confront me, and that only got me more pissed at her and the shitty life she was living. Just how in the world is my mate a drunkard? The moon goddess has done a wicked thing, choosing her as my mate. The moment our eyes locked with each other, I felt this urge to eat her up, to claim her as mine. There was no doubt about the mate bond that surged within me, wild and undeniable. But then, there was this flicker in her eyes, a dangerous blend of fear and attraction, like she was grappling with taking a run from me or embracing me. As I was about to calm her fears, her lashes fluttered, her eyes shutting immediately as her knees buckled, unable to hold her again. I lunged towards her, catching her in my arms just before she hit the ground. But that was a costly mistake for me, as her scent quickly filled my nostrils, overwhelming me. It was a dizzying storm of alcohol and something purer underneath, something that belonged only to me. And right at that instant, my wolf howled inside of me again. "Mate! Ours! What is the problem, my prince? The lady you have in your arms now, do you know her?" Kane, who had just stepped in, asked. "Yes, I do. She's my mate, and I just found out about her now," I sharply answered, carrying the lady in my arms out of the bar. So what should we do now? We can't take her with us to the palace. Not in this condition, at least, he said, his tone laced with nervousness. Yes, we can't. Which is why I want you to postpone the meeting with my father tonight and book a hotel room for us right away, I ordered. All right, my prince. I'll do just that, he answered, excusing himself immediately after doing so. Soon, we were at the room in the hotel Kane had booked for us, as I tried to place the sleeping damsel in the bed so she could properly sleep, but she refused to let go of me. Please stay with me, she whispered in my ear as she stirred in my arms, her lips parting as though tasting my presence even in her haze. It is so warm, she muttered, tracing her fingers weakly at my shirt. Then, with sudden boldness, she tilted her face up, her eyes drifting open as it met mine. Hey, handsome, I'm glad to have you here, so can you be mine for the night? She asked in a whisper but sexy voice as she gazed at me with emotion-filled eyes. Her hand slid up, clumsy but persistent, as she pressed herself into me. It was as though her body knew what her mind didn't. I was going to stop her from moving further with whatever it is she was tending to, but just before I could, her mouth brushed over mine, soft, reckless, and endearing. Make me yours, she whispered into my ear yet again. And that was all it took for our bond to flare up, shredding the little leash of control I had in me. I should have pulled back. I honestly wanted to do so. But then I couldn't. I couldn't wait for later, and ended up claiming her right there, and then as my mate. I woke up from sleep feeling like someone with a trailer load of goods mounted on their head. The headache was just too much for me, but it wasn't only my head that was hurting but my body as well, in between my legs, and I couldn't help but imagine what the heck it was that was behind it. I remembered stopping at the bar to take some alcohol and how incessant I was at it, which left me with a crazy hangover, but what about the pain I was feeling in my area? And where the fuck am I, even? This looks nothing like our house. With that said, I jumped out of the bed, immediately the duvet covering my body, going off only for me to discover I was even naked. Naked in a strange room. Was I taken advantage of? Just how in the world did that happen? I asked, scratching the hell out of my hair, my mouth wide open in shock at the new discovery. Seizing myself up, I discovered that someone slept with me last night, my virginity gone taken away from me by an unknown man, and all while I was in a drunken state. I felt so embarrassed and angry with myself, wishing that the ground would open for me to go in. At once, the memories of the night came flooding into my mind, the handsome stranger I had seen before drifting off to sleep, followed by the memory of how the deed was done. I had no right, no guts, to blame the darn stranger because I initiated it. I just don't know what went wrong with me. That was not the normal me, even if I was drunk, although I had a little more than I could handle yesterday. It's all my fault. I'm to blame for it all, as he never made such a move on me, not until I gave him the green light. I must have been so desperate for affection to have given myself away to him. What do I do now? What kind of a mistake did I make? I kept querying myself. My savior was that the so-called man I had been intimate with was nowhere in the room. It would have been a different story altogether for me to bear, to face him after what had happened. It would be a great torture for me, added to my existing tortures. I stepped out of the bed, despite how much I was hurting down there. Who knows how reckless he was with me, not knowing I was a virgin. Grabbing some tissues from my bag, with which I cleaned myself up, I found my clothes where they were neatly hung, probably by him, and put them back on as I walked out of the room immediately before the man or anyone would come for me. Just then, my phone rang as I reached out for it from my bag. There were 20 missed calls from my mother and 10 from Luna Cassandra. Hello, Mum. I answered my mother. I called you last night, but you never picked up. Where are you, and why didn't you come home last night? I can explain, Mum. I'll explain once I come back home. I'm on my way now, I answered, ending the call. I can't let my mom see me this way, so I thought of many lies to tell her once I got home, but upon reaching home, and to my surprise, she never queried me about my whereabouts last night. You're a grown-up and free to spend your night outside, or do whatever it is you want, but I hope you let me know about it beforehand, so I wouldn't have to worry because of you, Luna too, whose Maria you are now. She was tense last night, hearing that you didn't come home. You should be cautious now that you both have finally sealed the deal with each other. She can't lose you for anything, she chided. Got it, Mom. I'll try not to worry you both out, I answered, walking away from her to my room, glad that she didn't notice what was wrong with me, the way I was walking at least. I had no one to share my encounter last night with, and had to lock it up within me. A secret that shouldn't come out. 2 weeks later, I went to the lab for the artificial insemination procedure, after which I moved straight from the lab to the new house Luna Cassandra had rented for me, as discussed, and began living like a prisoner. The difference being that I was provided with all I needed, or rather, had everything at my disposal except for the freedom of movement. A maid was assigned to attend to me, and there was a room in the rented apartment equipped with fitness tools where I exercised sporadically for its pregnancy health benefits. Day by day, my belly grew, marking the passing months. To keep her husband from suspecting the truth, Luna Cassandra wore a prosthetic baby bump, making her belly swell like that of a pregnant woman. It deceived Alpha Darren and others into believing that she was truly pregnant, as if the IVF procedure she and Alpha Darren had done came out successful, that I couldn't help but wonder why she had to go to such lengths to have a child. I asked her about it when she came to see me today, and this was her response. Like you already know, Alpha Darren has a son from his first and late wife, who is not interested in taking after him as the alpha of our pack, and Alpha Darren has given up on him because of it. However, a few months ago, I overheard him discussing with his loyal subject having the darn son take over from him by force, since I cannot bear him a child that will carry on the bloodline, and that's something I don't want because I'll become less of a Luna and useful to them. That was when I began seeking a way around it, around my barrenness, and that was when this idea of getting a surrogate popped into my head, and here we are today, my Maria. She said, smiling wide at me, her teeth showing. I can hardly wait for the day you give birth, because that will be my chance to permanently stop Alpha Kelly from ever becoming Alpha. And that the life growing in your womb as a male child makes me quite thrilled and eager. She said, touching my belly. It's been 5 freaking years since the end of the deal I had with Luna Cassandra, a deal deep-rooted in my heart that I doubt I would ever forget everything about it, even though I've moved on with my life, currently living in the human world. Shortly after my departure from the pack, the surgery on my father was done, and he was back on his feet again, but I couldn't go to see or meet him because of the restriction that came with my agreement with Luna. I could only speak to him through the phone, and the lie was that I had gone outside to study. As much as I wasn't proud of or liked the deal with Luna Cassandra, I was at least happy that my father got saved through it. What I did not do was collect the $500 million she promised me to start a new life here. It just didn't sit right with me. My conscience couldn't let me do it. Good morning, ma'am, my secretary said with a smile, helping me with my bag as I entered my office in the orphanage, the home I had built, and the director. I went back to the university here, where I studied business administration, specialized in running charities, and used my skills to establish the orphanage. It was my way of giving back to society. Good morning, Kimberly. Can I see my schedule for today? I inquired of her afterward. Sure, ma'am. But before I do that, there is a woman waiting for you at the reception. She's been there since morning and wants to have an appointment with you, though it is an impromptu one, she responded. It's fine. You can ask her to come in, I answered, not thinking much about it. All right, ma'am. I'll do just that, she said, leaving my office as the woman came in shortly after. Here, you can have your seat over there, ma'am, and maybe start by introducing yourself and why you're here to see me. I gestured, pointing at the chair before me for her to sit. Yeah, good morning, Miss Hannah. I am Mirabelle, a journalist working with the Heart of the World Press. I'm here because of the anonymous tip I got a few days ago concerning an illegal adoption and surrogacy ring in the country, she said, my breathing becoming shallow and in uneven bursts at the mention of the word surrogacy. Upon further investigation into the matter, they are also into black market auctions of newborn babies and decided to, she paused midway, having noticed my reaction. Is something the matter, miss? She asked, sizing me up. Oh, nothing serious. Just a little headache and stuff. I lied, getting a grip on myself. I'll be fine. So you need not worry about me, and please continue with what you were saying. I want to know how I enter the picture, I said. All right, miss, if you say so. So the thing is this. I was lucky enough to get in contact with one of their ring members in disguise of needing a child I can buy, and got invited by her to their auction party tonight. And I asked, staring mouth wide at her. I wanted her to be fast, to know the reason she's telling me this. I would like you to accompany me to the place, she divulged, rendering me utterly speechless. What did you just say, ma'am? You want me to do what? Why me of all people in the world? What happened to your colleagues, or even the police? I asked, finally finding my voice, my brows raised at her. Of course, miss. I'll explain. Allow me to do so, please. I chose you and not any of the people you just mentioned because if I show up alone, they might suspect I'm a reporter. But if you're with me, the director of an orphanage, they will not suspect me at all and assume I'm legit and maybe even potential business. Not only that, but as a founder and director of an orphanage, you are more knowledgeable than I about the real channels of adoption. If these people are faking it, you'll notice faster than I will. That you've made a name for yourself in this field, helped countless children and families, and your reputation speaks louder than anyone else's. That's why I came to you, out of everyone else in the same line of work as you. So, I hope you understand now why I'm asking you for this great favor. I promise that will be all, and I won't stress you afterward, she said, and only then did I finally understand where she was coming from, as I had thought I was one of her suspects. You said the auction party is tonight, right? By what time? I asked. 8 p.m. prompt, miss, she responded as I quickly browsed through my scheduled timetable. My secretary had brought that over to me. All right, I'll be there with you by 8. I answered. After conversing with her for a little while, she left. The auction party. Upon arrival at the venue of the auction, which was filled to the brim with people even though it was night, our phones got taken away from us, as they inspected us thoroughly, after which we went in. The air was alive with the chatter and laughter of the people in the hall, a hall quite elegant, as servers moved around, offering drinks and snacks to the guests. But we were all wearing masks to conceal our identities from one another, thus, it was difficult to recognize or identify anyone there. However, something in me shifted, and I could perceive the scent of a werewolf the moment a woman announced as their founder and boss went onto the stage to deliver her welcoming address. I couldn't shake off the familiar feeling I got from her. Her voice, her presence, everything about her, in fact, was unmistakably recognizable. I just couldn't help but pray I'm wrong, that she's not the one I think she is. Leaning closer to Mirabelle, I whispered into her ear, "Is there a way for me to find out about this woman on stage? I need to confirm something with her." "I think the only way to do that is to request a one-on-one meeting with her," she said, her tone cautious. "But I heard she rarely meets with people herself, and that almost everything goes through her team, her ringleaders. Anyone she meets directly is special," she finished, her words making my heart skip. But then, I was too curious, so eager to find out about her. It was just too much that I had to go out of my way to do so, taking a risk, a move I shouldn't have made, but I needed to make it. With that, I came face to face with her behind the mask. And she was none other than my mother, the mother I left behind with my father in our pack. I froze, my handbag falling away from my hands as I let out an exclamation. Just how is she the head of an organization that auctions newborn babies? And in that split moment, a terrifying thought hit my mind. What if she isn't the person I thought she was all my life? Hannah's entire world shattered in a single moment. The woman she had trusted all her life, the woman she called mother, was the one behind the nightmare that had destroyed countless lives, including hers. But Benita's darkest secret wasn't the illegal surrogacy ring. It was the truth about Hannah herself. Who was Hannah's real mother? Why was she chosen to become Luna Cassandra's surrogate? And now that Benita knows, Hannah has uncovered everything, Hannah's entire world. Find out in part 2 of I Thought Selling My Womb Would Save My Father. I never expected this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of this thrilling werewolf romance. The biggest betrayals are only just beginning.